All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video, touching on the top props for this Thursday night showdown between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as always, I'd like to start out with the preview of the game. How does Vegas see this game going? Well, Vegas sees this as a very close scoring game at about 1.4 for a spread. And they do see it kind of being higher scoring as well, 45.9 for the over and under. That being said, I feel like a lot of how this game will go is kind of determined by who's going to be in or out. We have two of the best offensive linemen currently questionable for this game. I kind of expect both of them to play for both the Lions, with Taylor Decker and then also David Bakhtiari for the Green Bay Packers. Elton Jenkins as well, currently questionable. If those two linemen are both back for the Packers and Aaron Jones is back, that run game should be a lot better. I've been blaming A.J. Dillon a lot for looking bad, and I do think he has been, but also, you lose those two offensive linemen, and yeah, that offensive line is not going to be as good. Also, the Green Bay Packers are maybe going to get Alexander back, one of the best corners in the league. They also might get Christian Watson back as well. On the flip side of it, the Detroit Lions probably be getting David Montgomery back. Now, I will say, I'm saying probably and whatnot because it is a Thursday night game. Some teams might choose to have these players sit tonight or Thursday, depending on when you guys are watching this, recording this on Wednesday. That way they get a little bit extra rest and they're going to be more healthy throughout the whole season. At the same time, they could play Thursday night because they get 10 days of rest or whatever it would be, 3 extra days of rest instead, especially for those guys that didn't play the previous game on Sunday. Now, guys, I want to start off with saying that with the Green Bay Packers, my biggest worry, and you guys have been following the channel, I've been covering the Packers, like this hasn't been shocking at all. Really, the Packers season has went as I expected thus far, minus all the injuries. Jordan Love has looked literally as expected to a T, but I will say I am nervous about it being a short week. A lot of the production for the Green Bay Packers has come at the hands of Matt LaFleur. I know Mike McDaniels is getting a lot of love as he should, but what Matt LaFleur has been able to scheme up while having the youngest roster in the league and having all those players injured, the last week and a half, the last game and a half, that to me is maybe should have him at the coach of the year. There was a couple blunders, I guess, against Atlanta, so maybe not all there, but very, very impressive. So, maybe this short week leads to a little bit less of time for him to plan and scheme, and that could be a big thing. Like, honestly, but just real quickly, when we're talking about the sportsbook here, I could see like teasing the Lions to win by more than a touchdown or picking the Green Bay Packers to win. Like, I definitely see it going like either way. I really believe if this was a Sunday or Monday night game, I would be picking the Packers. Obviously, the injuries determine that as well. But looking at the props that we have available, I am mentally struggling a little bit with some of these because, like, for Jordan Love, for instance, I had him at 218 when these first came out for the passing yards. Another one was Luke Musgrave, which has been all over the board. I had all over the place thus far. It's been up to like 39. I think it's open at 32 or so and a half. I jumped in on that. Dobbs has been all over the place as well. It's just a strange board. So we'll go ahead and take a peek at how the 9-to-5 props sheet is liking this slate, and I'll be breaking it down for you guys as well. So I'm going to get into the Green Bay Packers to start out with. So looking at right now, the best prop that we have right now is going to be Luke Musgrave for under 3.5 receptions. I'm going to say right now, guys, this is not a prop bet that you want to be making on PrizePicks, but I do because of the line here, because it's so heavily favored as the under. But I think the over on any of the sportsbooks that are giving us that at 3.5 makes a ton of sense. First, I want to show you guys the snaps that Luke Musgrave has been getting. 87% the last 2 weeks. When we look at like tight end route data, we can see he's in the top there. When we look at tight end targets, one tiny scroll, and he's at 15. Then on top of that, we look at which team gets the best matchup for tight ends, especially in terms of receptions, to the Detroit Lions. And so I personally think that this line of 3.5 on those sports books, bet the over there. And I expect PrizePicks to bump this down to 3, and then we can think about betting the over there. I would say it has a really, really strong chance for it to be a push. And if we look at it, guys, he has been at 3 receptions every single game. His ball skills have not been the best because he probably should have had 4 receptions in that game. Last week, there was a deep bomb play early on in the game where Musgrave turns the opposite shoulder of where like Jordan Love was aiming towards. I don't know if that is just like a chemistry thing. If Musgrave, it kind of looked like he ran the wrong route. There's definitely a communication thing there, and I think that is a play that definitely has a better chance of being a catch. That's just stuff you expect to get cleaned up with a younger roster. So when that number comes down, I like the over 3 reception. And I say when because like PrizePicks is never going to leave us a prop like this, 55%. And same thing with Wix. Actually, I think they corrected this one. So when this refreshes at the top of the hour, it's down to 17.5. And I would say a lot of the value for Wix is dependent on whether or not Christian Watson plays. He is expected to play. Christian Watson is expecting to play, although Matt LaFleur came out and said that he has not been medically cleared to play. So once again, we go back into this snap chart here for the Green Bay Packers. We can see Wicks has been 61%, 50%, 66%. Now we look at it for Wicks these last two games. He has been getting targeted more, and he actually has looked way better than I thought he would. And I say that because we didn't really see him that much during the preseason. He was impressed for a 6th round. So I will say, if we get news that Watson's out, I don't mind Wicks if he's going to be playing about 60% of the snaps for that over 17.5 or 18.5. For now, I will say it's probably just a stay away. Like if it stays at 18.5 or if it goes back up to 18.5, stays at 7.5, 17.5, I feel like it's too risky because it's really just dependent on if Christian Watson plays or not. And I will say, if he does play, I expect him to get kind of the workload that Romeo Doubs got in that game. My worry with Watson is that his route tree will be limited. We know he's a speed guy. And so to me, that kind of scares me. Like if he's going to be running a bunch of go routes or deep posts or whatnot, I feel like the hamstring injury would have a greater chance of flaring up there. So just pump our brakes on that Wicks one. And then from there, Jordan Love, rush yards, projected to get 22. We see the line is at 16.6 on average. Favoring the over there barely at 51%. You know, last week he did get a couple of RPOs. He scored on one of them. I would say this line's correct. Like he is running the football a decent amount. I expect him to pull the football a few times in this game. I don't love betting on a quarterback pulling the football and running with it. And then that, like the yardage being there. He's been impressive as a runner. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think I want to use that one. And then Jayden Reed here. I do like the over yards for Jayden Reed, but I also think I like the over yards for Romeo Doubs as well. We can see these are both basically 50% likelihood. Tight slate, obviously. And let's just talk about both of those guys. So Jayden Reed, we can see, it has hit the over in almost all 3 games thus far. When we look at the receptions, I feel like this is a pretty good one as well, because when we pull up his DraftKings data, and guys, that's why I like using DraftKings for us, because it's better laid out. We can see that the targets have been there for him. Actually, he should have got his over or even of 3 receptions in every game thus far. Had a bad drop in Chicago. He's had some drop issues. Other than that, he's looked impressive. I do expect him to get a few manufactured touches in this game. The only issue that we might have is maybe it's a rushing attempt rather than a pass attempt, but probably he'll get maybe one of those underneath shuffle passes, maybe a screen, and I think we have a good chance of getting him to 2 free play. Then from there, just needs to make up for it with another catcher. So I do think the targets will be there regardless of if Christian Watson plays or not. And then same thing with Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs was targeted heavily last week, 12 targets in that game, 3 targets against Atlanta, and then 5 on a limited snap share against Chicago. Now, Chicago's an easy matchup. We have come to learn that. We expect that, but it is an easy matchup. He only played in 76% of the snaps against Atlanta, still a little bit limited. But if he's going to be playing 86% of the snaps, I do think he has a good chance of getting over 40.5 receiving yards. I would say that this is a better stack, though. Like if you think Jordan Love has a good chance to pass for over 232.5 passing yards, then roll with this. And I will say, against Atlanta, I don't know exactly what the yardage was, but there were some DPI calls in that game. And that's going to be the biggest hindrance against Jordan Love, is that he has been taking some deep shots and he has gotten a lot of DPIs called. And so those air yards, it's kind of unfortunate that, you're not getting those then. So the air yards will be there, I will say. It's just whether or not they're converted. I would say Christian Watson being active does only help Jordan Love, but I would say the biggest reason why Jordan Love would be able to get there is because Luke Musgrave does have a big game. And now I doubt we're going to get any props on like AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones, but just looking at it, guys, like I don't know if there's any prop that we could touch for Aaron Jones. We don't know how many snaps he's going to play. If he does play, like why would you play him, if he's not going to be good to go? I do expect him to get around 15 opportunities. Like they're going to limit his workload a little bit. They're going to be these bigger plays. And so wouldn't it be shocking, like whatever his receiving and rushing total combo prop is, for him to either kill that or not even get close to it? That's kind of just the player that he is. And then AJ Dillon, I'm probably just not touching. Now, I'm a little upset that we're not getting any kicking props for the better Carlson brother kicker, because I think that could be an interesting one. The dude has a leg. And guys, just real quickly while I'm looking at this combo touchdowns props, I actually think I like this one the most, at least for the Packers. Romeo Doubs has been a good end zone guy to target. And then AJ Dillon, I feel like he does have a better chance of scoring a rushing touchdown than does Aaron Jones. Now let's get into the Detroit Lions. Okay, getting a little bit more limited props on them, but we will see, like, very interesting here for St. Brown for the lines that we were getting on him. I want to call it the game log for ASB here. Look at his 2 games against Green Bay. They've been 2 of his worst games thus far. 9 points total, 9.5, and then 10.9. Literally 2 of his worst games from last season. Now, he was targeted heavily in those, but we can see receptions were not at 6.5, which is what his over and under is currently set at. Yards were very limited as well. So we'll see with St. Brown that both of the data points that we're getting on him are suggesting the under. And this could be a situation where, because of that, I actually don't mind the idea of betting the under fantasy points for him. That is dependent on Alexander being active or not. Once again, guys, this slate is difficult to give pre-game coverage on because we might not know that before, like an hour before the slate lock. There's some very much injury dependent news that we are waiting on that will change the dynamic of betting for this game. They'll change the dynamic of the game. I do believe Alexander's going to play. Thus, I do think betting the under fantasy points when it comes out for Brown is going to be the way to go because they're going to be factoring in a little bit of a touchdown. But for now, you could just roll with, I would say under 74.5 actually. I would say I like that better than the receptions, but I say they go hand in hand. Then we do see Sam Laporta being favored for over 42.5 receiving yards at about 52%. I was watching that Lions Detroit game. I watch every game in case you guys don't know that. And it really seemed like the Lions took what was successful for the Green Bay Packers and used that. And you saw Laporta kind of running free on some plays like Luke Musgrave did on a couple of plays. He is playing a lot. He's getting a lot of snaps or targets as well. I don't know. This sort of feels like a stay away. The Green Bay Packers have actually been pretty decent, I would say, against opposing tight ends. More middle of the road, but really not giving up that many yards, not giving that many receptions. They did give up a touchdown to Jimmy Graham. Like, who cares? But then when we look at the tight end data for Sam Laporta, and this is where I get cautious against him. Like, I think a lot of people are invested in Sam Laporta in season-long leagues. I'm not saying that's wrong, but we look at the routes ran by Laporta. Those are extremely low. Like, I think I would rather be on Luke Musgrave, who has ran about 10 more routes. They're playing about the same snaps, and Laporta has gained targeted a little bit heavier. But to me, that does just feel like more of a stay away than for him for his receiving yard. Then we look at Jared Goff. You know, I don't feel like we're getting an edge here. I really don't. And we look at this like this has been Jared Goff, very much a consistent type of quarterback. Probably a stay away there. Same thing with pass attempts, like not a big edge there. Pass completions, not a big edge there. And honestly, if we get maybe a rushing prop that's low for Jared Goff, maybe that's something we're looking at because he could probably get there in one run. Look at the Green Bay Packers. They've given up the 3rd most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. Maybe something there. Now, yes, they played Desmond Ridder, who ran the football a decent amount. They played Justin Fields, who is a run first, sadly, not really a run first quarterback. People want him to be, but you guys get the point there. And so for Detroit, like I just don't feel like we are gaining a big edge here. I am curious to see as to which line we get for Josh Reynolds. We're not going to get any running back lines just yet because we don't know for sure the stats on David Montgomery. I do expect him to play. And if David Montgomery plays, like once again, it's like I would imagine he's going to get more of a full workload because why not? With it being a Thursday night game, like you could just sit him and get him extra rest if he is that banged up. So maybe we're looking at an over there. And the Green Bay Packers haven't been the best against the run, so there could be something there. All right, so literally as I was trying to get into the bet of the day, I noticed we got some news for the Green Bay Packers. They're going to be without their 2 offensive linemen there, okay? Now, it probably does change the dynamic of the slate a little bit to maybe a more pass-heavy script. It's tough. I hate trying to predict game script because like the Dallas Cowboys-Arizona game, we can be greatly wrong, and I did warn against that in that game. I do think Luke Musgrave over 3 receptions is probably the best one that we're getting, but once again, I do think Jaden Reed should basically, I hate using the word lock, but should basically be a lock to get 3 receptions. It's just whether or not he gets the over. And I don't like betting on the St. Brown one in general. Like I said, I do think fantasy points is going to be the better one. Guys, it's tough. I'm trying to give you guys the information to make the best decisions possible once we get the fully populated board. We don't have a fantasy score prop on him just yet. We don't know if Alexander is going to be playing. I still think that the under 6.5 receptions is probably the way to go. Although if Alexander's out, I definitely don't. I'm taking that one off. And then I don't feel like we have a good Lions player to run it back with just yet. Probably be Goff for under pass attempts. That's just the nature of the beast right now and Wednesday afternoon. So that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to the 9 to 5 cheat sheet, it is available for just $10 a month. If you guys want access to the ODDSJAM sportsbook page, click the link in the description below. Use the promo code 9 to 5 to get 25% off your first deposit. All right, thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.